Hello friends, welcome back to the channel SK Codify, and in this video today we are going to talk about the callback health situation. In the last video we talked about how the callback function work. It is useful for doing that, performing that asynchronous call, and also it gives us the better control on the function execution sequence. Okay. So let's say in the last video we talked about a little example, but here we would like to talk something. We'll take a scenario. So here we are creating a scenario for sending an email. Let's just think about that. We are implementing a feature of sending email. So sending an email can have multiple steps, like preparing content, then validating those content, then formatting that content, and then finally send it. Okay, so what we are doing here is we to just assume it's a snippet of code. We have taken the content initialized with no content. Okay, and then we have prepare content. uh, I will talk about, like, why I have supplied email here. Right now I have not used it here, but I know that where it will be used. Okay, so okay, here initializing the content and then printing that. Okay, after that our requirement is to validate that content. So what we are doing here, just replacing if any uh, underscore is occurred with space. Okay, something, and then printing that uh, content, validated content. For demonstration purpose, we are just doing that demonstration purpose. That's not a real implementation at all. So just to demonstrate like how multiple uh, uh, functions, basically in the real project we have to deal with some this kind of situation. And when we use callback, it actually works, but it become difficult to understand that, complex to debug that. So that's what I'm trying to uh, give an example of that complexity. After validating that, what we have to take that validated content and then uh, format that. So here for formatting we are just changing it to uppercase. Okay, and then finally send that email and print that log. Okay, so what we are going to do here, just as a normal usual way of doing that, prepare content. I'm supplying an email. uh, just okay, for a scenario, let's to email is equal to, okay, and supplying that email here. Okay, after that we have to validate the content, supplying the email here. Then what? Formatting the content, and then finally send that content. Okay, so how it is going to do? Okay, so this is simple. As usual we do in the JavaScript, every function is being executed in the sequence that it is called. Okay, but as we talked in the last video that there is a chance that if this function get delayed to work, to finish it out, the second function get called if we do not take care. Okay, so here the callback function comes into the picture. And in the real project, but in the real project with the multiple level of mm, multiple deep level of call or deep level of handling can make the program complex. Let's see how. uh, so I have written the code here. Let me copy it. just for saving the time, validation callback. Here we can call it validation callback. Okay, and we have formatting callback. We have formatting callback and supply the email here. This is the purpose that we had taken email, supplying from one place to another place, formatting callback from one function to another function. Okay, and then hey, this should be okay. Formatting, what I'm doing here. Okay, prepare content, taking the validation for callback and validation content, taking the formatting callback, and formatting content taking the send email callback. Right, send email callback. Okay, so just call it send email callback and supply the email here. And the send email callback, just take a simple callback just for, if anything we want to print in the last. But now, instead of calling this, and let me call it a callback also. Okay, so instead of calling this one by one here, we are going to call it by this way. We are going to create a send function and we are going to call it. You see this, what we are doing, we are, you know, uh, first preparing the content, and then see, let's before talking about this call, let's first talk about the program that we wanted to write. So what we want first to prepare the content. In order to send an email, first we want to prepare the content. We have taken a variable uh, which is a string type and having no content. Okay, so in the prepare content we are initializing the content. So just think about, like, your logic is here, you may be getting the content from API or wherever, some file resource. So what we want, after completing this prepare what we call it, sorry, prepare content, we want to call the validate content, okay, function. So here you see, here um, we are just calling the callback function. So here it is just a definition. Okay, here it is just a definition, the real call is here. Okay, prepare content and the real call is here, validate content. Here we are just using the variable, you can say it's a callback function variable, it's a callback function variable. So declaration. Okay, so this is how each function depends on the success of the previous function. Okay, that is our requirement, that is what we want to do. After validation, means after preparation, we want to do the validation. So if the validation is successful happening, we would like to send it for the uh, formatting, and after successful the same thing formatting, we are going to send the email, the formatted content. So this is how it becomes the hell. Okay, now you can think of it, we have just single parameter email. In the real project you might have multiple parameters and multiple deep level. So it finally becomes your hell for you. Okay, so just try to run the program. Okay, I have not called the email, I have not called the send function. Let me call it here, what we call send function, and let let me supply the email. Okay, you see this, it is working. This is working as expected, but it is difficult to, read it. It is difficult to understand, debugging it. Okay, it is difficult to debug it. And basically, this is very simple. It has single parameter. Otherwise, it can go to the out of the line, out of the screen. This kind of function we all have seen as a developer. If you have work on some old project, so instead of using the callback function, we have something called promise in JavaScript. Okay, promise in JavaScript. So in the next video, we will talk about the promise in JavaScript, and this promise is really promising. Okay, here in the callback function, we are not sure. We are not sure if we are doing some API call. We are not sure what error we are getting. How here we are not sure. Here we are not sure if the previous function is successfully completed or not. We are just chaining that. We are just chaining the function. But in the promise, uh, we will know about if the function has got successfully executed or failed. If it is executed successfully, it will give something in result. Okay, as a successful execution, it can give you something in hand as a result, some value. Okay, if it is failed, it will give you some reason. Okay, and here one more thing I would like to say. Most likely, most of the time, our callback functions are void function. Okay, although you can return, but you are not going to get the value for that useful. Okay, so it's nowadays, as we have promise in JavaScript, so we can avoid it. Okay, so but if you already have something in your project already, so this is how you can tackle it. In the next video, we will also talk about how to migrate such kind of function into the using that promise. Okay, so okay, this is all about this video. uh, Thank you, take care, see you.